you're doing some upgrades on your personal stuff there. I see you were unloading your old Apple laptop, was it?
Oh yeah, so I was definitely due for a new laptop. We have a new studio that we're putting together here for future video and podcast content, and it was apparent that the laptop I had, it was like a 2012 MacBook. So yeah, that wasn't going to cut it. So I just looked at little pro tip here, the M1 MacBook Pro and the M2 that just got released last week or this last month or whatever, is like basically the same thing.
Okay.
So I picked up an M1 MacBook Pro on Apple's Refurb site,
Mm,
and I would say I got a pretty sweet deal on it.
good. And so, what is the advertised difference between the M1 and the M2?
I think like 18 or 20% speed improvement,
Okay.
but when you look at like uh, that calculus really only matters if you're doing like video rendering.
Hmm.
Like how much faster can you load a web page? I
Right.
mean, it's kind of negligible. So,
Hmm.
computers are really at a point right now, which is really interesting. That web, email, maybe even some basic gaming. It's like all the computers are basically on parity. One of the biggest features that impacts that is the solid state hard drives. And I just
Right.
read somewhere that like 90% of computers now, all computers now have solid state hard drives.
Wow.
So the platter based hard drives that are, the spinning platters, like high tech record players, like those are basically gone now.
Yeah. Yeah. And fewer moving parts will make things more efficient and make them last a little bit longer,
Definitely
which
more durable. Yeah.
may not be the greatest thing if you're in the hardware replacement business. But yeah, so you had mentioned you were going to talk about Azure. So we thought that that would slide in well with Microsoft and their earnings last week. And they said worldwide shipments on PCs are down about 30% year over year. So I think our conversation sort of holds true there. I almost feel like the computer and the car has sort of run parallel where people are just holding on a little bit longer because the next upgrade isn't that much better than what they have.
I drive a 14-year-old Pathfinder with 217,000 miles on it. So like I
Yeah.
could not be any more than, a living example of that.
Yeah. And it's funny, I still think of like time moves by so fast, but our two cars I still think of being new cars, and one of them 6 years old and one of them's 5 years old. But
So
I mean
true.
they they keep well, they don't look dated. They were, model early in the model cycle for that. So they're still producing similar looking vehicles, but
I just
that the
I just read an
technology.
article yesterday that in Motor Trend, I think it came up my feed. The headline said, "I no, I no longer want to drive ICE vehicles anymore," and that's where my position is. Like I don't. The reason why I'm holding out on the Pathfinder is because I don't want to buy another internal combustion vehicle. But
Yeah.
I mean, where that's a rat hole. I don't know if you want to get into, but you're talking about Microsoft earnings.
Yeah, yeah, I was just talking about the hardware upgrades and how, Microsoft every time, Dell sells a computer and they've got Windows on there, Microsoft is getting a hot cut of that. And then also Microsoft obviously has their own line of hardware with the Surface and the Surface Pro and the Surface Pro laptop. And all that stuff is just lasting a little bit too long for them to make new sales. And the
Yeah,
upgrades aren't that.
my phone. iPhone 8. I think this is circa iPhone 8 Plus. This is circa 2017. I think
Mm. Yeah, yeah, and that would have been, in 2017 to have a 6-year-old phone would have been ludicrous,
that would have been crazy, right?
wouldn't even have been operable probably,
Would have been a BlackBerry,
Yeah, right,
maybe. I don't know.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, and I only upgraded my most recent because they were doing such stupid, like, trade-in promotions, and I didn't even trade in my one before that. I traded in my one that was, like, 2 before that because I hadn't bothered to trade it in because there was, like, nothing, and I'm like, "Well, I could use the camera on it," and then I ended up trading that one in, and it basically cost me nothing to
Our
upgrade, but
9-year-old has the nicest phone in the house. She just got
yeah.
for her birthday or Christmas. She just got the latest iPhone.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I hope they appreciate it.
So how's Microsoft doing? Are you gonna cover
Yeah,
the earnings
their
or?
revenue, yeah, their revenue was down, even though it was up year over year. It was down against what some of the estimates were. Um, Earnings, their revenue was up, but their earnings were down about 6.5%, and a lot of that comes from the PC market. But they're doing so much with their cloud and with the Azure stuff that
Azure,
you're
yep,
talking about.
yep.
Um, they also spent a lot of money on Activision, so
Did that go through?
so it's looking like it's probably not going to go through.
Or what, they
It's
had the money in escrow and that's affecting their earnings, or?
yeah, it's they put a lot of time and effort into that, but Sony's fighting it, and the Federal Trade Commission is
Right.
standing up against that a little bit. The other thing is they're anticipating a bit of a slowdown in the cloud segment.
Hmm.
So this is enterprise software and hosting and all that sort of stuff. I think what's interesting though is their we've talked about Chat GPT and their involvement there, although that's probably going to be a while before they're able to get much
You think so? I
significant
mean,
revenue out of that.
they just pledge 10 bill to that?
Yeah, yeah. So
Did
that
they
was
did they disclose their ownership share
I don't
in
know if I've
OpenAI?
seen that yet. Um,
By the way, they're a major stakeholder, or they were at one point, in Facebook. I don't know if many people know that either,
yeah, I did know that. Yeah,
or Meta.
early investor
I
there.
think they're still
Um,
holders of of Meta. What are they trading at these right now?
so Microsoft, we can
They were two, or
get a
last
quote
time I paid
here.
attention, they were like 100 and a quarter,
They are
170
right
maybe.
now. It's trading about 246,
Huh.
up 1.5% today, down about 20% year over year
What's
though.
their PE on that?
PE ratio is their forward PE is 26.04.
Wow,
Yeah, which
that's pretty
is
high.
it is pretty high. Yeah, it really is. And you would have thought it would have. It must have been coming down from, although earnings have dropped a little bit. It must have been probably 35, 36 a year ago, I
That's
would
really
guess.
high. That's really high. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like Tesla high. That's all. I wouldn't. That's all right. Reach the retail investors doing that probably.
Yeah, I mean they have a little bit of a dividend. They have a yield of about 1%, but a lot of the people are chasing yields on stuff because their treasuries and savings account weren't doing very much.
Right.
And Tesla had a good week. They were up 10% when they came out with their earnings. Let's see where they're trading right now. Tesla right now is up 3% again today. They're up to 171.
Who's that?
Tesla.
Tesla. What,
Yeah,
and
they've got
what in comparison? What's their PE?
their P is 52.
52. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when they were at their high, what did we report? They were like 700
Yeah,
times
they had
price to earnings.
yeah.
It's crazy, crazy. So, all right. Thank you for covering Microsoft's. That was Microsoft's earnings call. What was that for the fiscal year
Last
22?
week. Yeah.
Was that the
Yeah, for
quarter,
the
or was
fourth
that
quarter.
the
Yep.
fourth quarter?